Hi, I'm going to show you what to do when you open After Effects for the first time. After Effects can be used for keying, tracking, compositing, and animation, and you can find a lot of tutorials about these topics. Before diving into any of that, you should become familiar with the basics and the workspace. This tutorial is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with more than 15,000 classes in many categories. Everyone can take a class and try a project, and you can even teach a class yourself. Premium membership starts around $10 per month for unlimited access. You can get a 2-month free trial by clicking the link in the description. A credit card is required, but you can cancel it anytime. I'll mention a few useful courses from Skillshare throughout this tutorial, so by using the coupon you'll be able to access them for free. I'm going to take you through the basics of After Effects, and we will make this short video along the way. When you open After Effects for the first time, this is what you'll see. And this user interface can be really confusing for beginners, so let's start off by explaining it. On the left side, we can find a project panel, and this is where you create new compositions and import your footage. Down here we can see a timeline, and this is where you will do all of your work inside of a composition, which will then be previewed in the composition panel. On the right side we can find a preview panel that controls the preview of the timeline, and as you can see the shortcut used is the spacebar. Right here we have an info panel and an audio panel, and down here we have an effects and presets panel. Right here you can find all the effects and presets that come with After Effects. On top we can see a toolbar, and this has all the tools that you can use in After Effects, and as you can see most of them are the same like in other Adobe software. So let's start off by right-clicking and then importing some new footage. You can click right here, or you can press Ctrl-I to open the import window, and then you can select your file and import it. When you import a file into After Effects and select it in the project panel, you will be able to see its properties. So right here we can see the resolution, the pixel aspect ratio, the duration, the frame rate, and down here we can see the format. So how do we create a new composition? You can click right here, and that will show a composition settings window. And right here we can change the width, the height, the frame rate, and the duration, or we can just select a preset. So the most commonly used one is HDTV 1080 at 30 frames per second. And then once you're done adjusting this, just click OK, and that is how you create a new composition. Right now it's empty, so we only see a black preview. So let's delete this composition, and let's see what happens when we drag the video over to the button. As you can see, a new composition is created, and it has the same properties as this video. So how do we add more footage into a composition? You can just select it and then drag it inside of the composition, and if you drop it you can see that it's right here. But let's press Ctrl-Z to undo that, and let's take a look at what happens when we drag a video over to the composition preview panel. As you can see, we can control where we place it, and when we drag the video right here, we can control when we place it. So let's drop it right here, and you can see that it no longer starts at the beginning, it will start at this point. So now let's talk about the timeline. Right here you can see the time code and the frame number. So for example, if we're at 3 seconds, you can see that we're at the 90th frame. So how do we control this playhead? You can press page down to move 1 frame forwards, you can press page up to move 1 frame backwards, and by holding shift and pressing page down you can move 10 frames forwards, and you can move 10 frames backwards by pressing shift and page up. To set the playhead to the beginning of the timeline, you can press home, and to set the playhead at the end, you can press end on your keyboard. So those are some basic shortcuts. Now let's talk about the layers inside of the composition. This video right here is now one layer, and if we click right here, we can see that it has its own set of properties. These are the transform properties, and they are the opacity, rotation, scale, position, and anchor point. And the way we make animations in After Effects is by creating keyframes. So let's move the playhead back to the beginning, and let's click on the stopwatch to create a first keyframe for the opacity value. Now let's change it to 0, and then let's move the playhead forwards and let's change the value to 100. As you can see, that automatically created a new keyframe. So right here, the value is at 0 and then it animates to 100. And what that does is it creates a nice fade in transition. As you can see, this green bar is filling up and everything that is green can be previewed in real time. When you are using effects that require more processing power, it will take longer for this green line to fill up. So now let's talk about these keyframes. As you can see, if I click on a keyframe and move it, it will change the duration of the animation. And there's a lot to say about keyframes. To learn more about keyframing in After Effects, I recommend you to check out the Master Graph Editing in After Effects course by Joas Berkeley. I'll include a link in the description so you can check it out. Let's move on to some other layers in After Effects. You can right click and then click on New, and you'll see that you'll be able to create a text layer, a solid, a light, a camera, a null object, a shape layer, an adjustment layer, and then you'll be able to use Photoshop files and Cinema 4D files. Let's take a look at the toolbar. As you can see, these tools are the same as they are in Photoshop. For example, the shape tools, we have the rectangle tool and the pen tool. And then we also have the hand tool and the zoom tool. To zoom in the composition panel, you can just scroll, and then to use the hand tool, you can press the spacebar, and that will switch you over to the hand tool while you're holding the spacebar. When you want to get back to your default view, you can just click on Fit, and that will adjust this based on the size of the composition panel. Let's select the rectangle tool and let's deselect everything in the timeline, and then let's draw a rectangle. As you can see, that creates a new shape layer together with a rectangle. Let's press Ctrl Z and then let's start drawing a rectangle. If you press Shift, that will create a proportional square. So let's undo that again. Now let's select the video layer and let's draw a rectangle. As you can see, that now creates a mask on our video and it is included in the layer. Let's undo that, and you can see that the same thing happens when we use the pen tool. That enables us to create a mask. To learn more about masks and shape layers in After Effects, I recommend you to check out the Ultimate Guide to Shape Layers in After Effects by Jake Bartlett. The link is included in the description. So let's undo all of these mask points, and now let's move on to the Type tool. So if I select the Type tool and click anywhere, I can type in some text. So let's type in my first project. Right now you can see that we have a character panel, and right here we can change the font, the size of the text, and we have tons of other options. Right here we can see a paragraph panel, and we can change the centering of the text. Now let's click on Window and let's enable the Align panel. This will allow us to select the text layer and then align it to the horizontal and the vertical center of the composition. If we click right here, you can see that we have text options and we have transform properties. And to learn more about text layers in After Effects, I recommend you to check out the Ultimate Guide to Kinetic Type in After Effects by Jake Bartlett. The link is also included in the description. So right now, let's show the transform properties, and then let's set a position keyframe. So at the beginning, let's say I want this text to be on the left, and then maybe right here at 5 seconds, I want this text to be right here. So you can just move it and that will create a new keyframe. And now if we play this, you can see that we made a simple animation. To make this look a bit more interesting, we're gonna select the scale property of the video, and we're gonna set a keyframe right here at the beginning. We're gonna set the scale to 125, and that will increase the size of the video. We can do that by selecting the video and then resizing it manually inside of the composition preview. To make it proportional, make sure that you press shift before you drag the corners of the video. So we set this value to 125, and then right here we want to set it to 100. So that will create a nice zoom out effect. So now let's click on fit to return to where we originally were. And now let's minimize these two layers. Now let's take a look at the effects and presets panel. Let's say that we want to make this video black and white. The effect that we're looking for is called tint. So you can just search for it and type in tint, and here it is. You can also find it manually by searching through these folders. It's inside of the color correction folder, and right here it is. So how to apply an effect to a layer? You can select a layer in the timeline and then double click on the effect, and it will be applied to the layer. You can also drag it over inside of the composition preview, or you can drag it to the layer inside of the timeline. Then the effect controls panel will appear. Right here we have some other effect properties, but we're not gonna adjust these because with the default settings we get a black and white effect, and that is how you apply an effect to your footage. So right now we have this video, and let's say that we only want it to be 5 seconds long. We need to zoom out on the timeline, and then you can see that we can change the size of the work area. So let's set the end of the work area at 5 seconds like that. And now you can right click and click on trim composition to work area. Now the duration of the composition is adjusted and it is only 5 seconds long. Now once you're done with all of your work and you want to export your file and save it as a video, you click on composition and then you go to add to render queue. You can also click on add to Adobe Media Encoder queue, but right now we're just gonna use After Effects. The beginner's mistake when rendering with After Effects is getting huge files. That is because the lossless format is AVI and it is uncompressed, and that will give you huge exported files. To learn more about all of these options, you can check out a course from Jake Bartlett, which is called Compressing Videos for the Web. I'll include a link in the description, but right now let's just set the format to QuickTime and then let's click on format options. You want to make sure to set the video codec to H.264. That will give you a .mp4 file, and that is the most commonly used format online. Once you're done, you just click OK, and then you can set the output location and then hit save. And once you're done, you just hit render. To make the render time faster, you enable caps lock, and that will disable the preview, which will make the rendering faster. Once your render is complete, you will hear this sound. Make sure to check out Skillshare and use the coupon by clicking the link in the description. I've been using it myself and I found it very useful. You can find lots of courses that can help you learn After Effects as well as anything else you're interested in. That's it for this tutorial. For more tutorials, please check out my channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.